Honestly. No, I was waiting for Steve to join, and he might join in a minute, but he's not here yet, so in case he doesn't come, because he's usually on time, I thought I would just start. And so me and Steve have been reading the Song of Rubik every week and just gone through it kind of quickly and just whatever comes up in our hearts that we want to share about it, and to just share the joy of reading the Song of Rubik with each other and whoever chooses to listen. So I'm going to read some of chapter 16. It's called Peace of Mind. Nadaga, hear me again expound to you, out of compassion, the supreme truth of sublime bliss. All this is rare in any world. Those who contemplate on this in their heart will, by all means, become the supreme, which is a mass of existence bliss, and attain the changeless, peaceful state. Therefore, ever meditate with ardour that I am the undivided supreme, and attain peace. I, indeed, am the supreme Brahman bliss ever. I, indeed, am the supreme Brahman bliss, which is changeless. I, indeed, am the supreme Brahman bliss of knowledge, the perfectly full, the thought-free. I, indeed, am the supreme Brahman bliss, which is full of consciousness. I, indeed, am the supreme Brahman bliss, which is endless. Ever meditating thus, attain peace. So all of that, it's ever blissful, changeless, full of knowledge, perfectly full, thought-free, full of consciousness, endless. None of that describes ourselves as a separate individual, as in someone with problems. So anytime that seems to appear, we just have to check and reaffirm what I truly am. And I'm beyond everything that is of this world, everything perceived. So even all those things, words, endless, changeless, perfectly full, thought-free, they're good words to point. But what I truly am doesn't have a word. It's just like I'm just here. Thought-free. And thoughts can be here at the same time as I being thought-free. I'm thought-free, yet there can be still thoughts appearing. I, indeed, am the supreme Brahman bliss, the eternal. I, indeed, am the supreme Brahman bliss, the unsurpassed, the real, the permanent, the endless, the undivided, the non-dual. Always meditating thus, attain peace. Delusion and such are only consciousness bliss. Ishvara, the Lord, and others are only consciousness bliss. Ignorance and such are only consciousness bliss. Thought and such are only consciousness bliss. Individuals and others are only consciousness bliss. Shiva and others are only consciousness bliss. All is only consciousness bliss, and I am that. Meditating thus with sincerity, attain peace. Whatever might arise is only consciousness. Brahman, full of existence, bliss is all. I, indeed, am Brahman, which is only existence, bliss. Brahman, full of consciousness, bliss is all. I, indeed, am Brahman, which is only consciousness, bliss. The Supreme, which is full of grace, is all. I, indeed, am the Supreme, which is full of grace. Nidaga, with unremitting effort, contemplating thus always, be at peace. Now, Daga is another name for you. You could just fill in your own name there. Thought, which is illusory, never is. And Ruby is also another name for you. All the names are your names. Thought, which is illusory, never is. There are no worlds and other things which are unreal. There is no such word as mithya, illusion, ever. There is no one who is totally ignorant. The supreme existence consciousness bliss is all, and I indeed am ever that. With steadfast effort, always contemplate thus, and be at peace. I really like that. There is no one who is totally ignorant, because I feel like you can get into blaming somebody else like they're in the wrong or something, or they're just so unconscious they don't know what's happening. Or maybe that's only my mind, I don't know. But it's really good to remember that even when people seem to be acting unconscious, and of course there's plenty of us in the world who act unconscious, but it's only an act. And nobody is completely unconscious, ignorant. I don't know if unconscious is a great word. But I had a thought recently, because I feel like the more and more time that goes by, it seems like more and more unconsciousness comes to the surface for us to see. But then I felt like what is unconsciousness? And unconsciousness is consciousness. So actually, like unconscious is consciousness. Thought, which is a blemish, does not exist. The world that appears does not exist. There is not an atom of egoity or such. In truth, all is the undivided supreme Brahman. I am the supreme, which is blemishless knowledge, and which is full and all-pervading. Until you attain that state of being in a state of sleep without sleeping, continuously meditate thus and be at peace. There is nothing in the least as here and the hereafter. All is the supreme Brahman, which is myself. I indeed am of the nature of the supreme Brahman, the mass of bliss. I indeed am of the nature of the supreme Brahman, which is pure knowledge. I am of the nature that shines as itself as I. I indeed am the supreme of undivided nature. Until all mental illusions are overcome, meditate always thus and be at peace. And at least for myself, I don't feel like I would ever claim that all mental illusions are overcome. And that's just because really there's only right now. It's like, are we believing or seeing like a mental illusion now? Or are we just being ourselves right now? Because actually, you never know what the next moment brings. And it could be that the next moment is full of mental illusion. Like we actually don't know at all. And that's it. We just don't know. Because I feel like I have said things like that before. Like I haven't got a very clear memory, but I kind of felt like, oh yeah, there's like, I don't feel very conditioned anymore. There's no conditioning going on. But as soon as you say something like that and believe it, then life just comes and gives you everything, just to show you that no, you actually just don't know what's going on. So, at least in my world, it's like so far. So that just means meditate always and be at peace. And here, meditating just means the same. The word is the same. It's not like I being and doing something. It's more just like I being and being myself. And that's meditating. I, myself, am of the nature of the faultless supreme existence. I, myself, am of the nature of the supreme consciousness. I, myself, am of the nature of the supreme bliss. I, myself, am of the nature of the all-pervasive. I, myself, am of the nature that has no parts or such. I, myself, am the higher than the highest, the supreme Brahman, until what appears as the world disappears. Meditate always thus and be at peace. Not beautiful until what appears as the world disappears. I was talking to someone recently and saying, I was trying to talk about what's being discovered here. And she was, I suppose, in not understanding or kind of just really believing that you needed thoughts. And I was kind of saying, the sky is full of clouds, but as the clouds disappear, then you can see the sky that was there all along. So that way until one appears as the world disappears. So if the world is the clouds, as the world disappears, what's really here appears, and it's actually here already. I don't know. I'm just sharing what's coming to me when I read. All is always of the nature of Brahman. The world, the individuals, and the supreme are of the nature of Brahman. I indeed am of the nature of the supreme Brahman, which is all. I myself am of the nature of the supreme Brahman, which is taintless. I myself am ever only the undivided supreme Brahman. I am ever only the blemishless supreme Brahman, until what appears as the world and all else disappears. Meditate always thus and be at peace. I see now that I didn't even mean that. So until what appears as the world. Well, it's the kind of the same thing. What appears as the world, it looks like the world, but it's actually not the world at all. I was kind of saying that the self is appearing as the world is disappearing, because it can kind of seem like that. I feel like it can seem like that. That we get to see, the more we kind of recognize the truth of who we are, the more the world disappears. World, instead of world like that, because the world is just like all the stories in your mind. Until what appears as the world and all disappears. Meditate always thus and be at peace. Truly the world and such never are. Only fickle thought appears as the world. Hence, son, it can be said that thought is the illusory world. Thought is the great defect. Thought indeed is the great delusion. Thought is what constitutes the cycle of birth and death, and appears as the child and such. Thought only is the body and all. Thought alone is what appears as the being. Thought alone is what appears as all. Hence, son, the world, the individuals, and the supreme are filled with thought only. Thought is entirely unreal, illusory, and completely false. Like the son of a barren woman, like the horns of a hare, and ever void, there is no doubt. Son, though thought itself, due to lack of inquiry, appears as the world, individuals, and the supreme, thought itself, inquired into, is only Brahman. Consciousness, without the least trace of the world, or individuals, and the supreme. To overcome thought easily, be ever seriously engaged in the inquiry, and be at peace, realizing the world and all that are full of thought are indeed Brahman. That is consciousness, and I am that. Thought itself appears as mind. Mind itself is the greatest illusion. Mind itself is the beings, the world, and all. Mind itself is the body and all. Mind itself is the great cycle of rebirth. Mind itself is the great bondage. Mind itself is the greatest sin. Mind indeed is the great misery. Mind itself is the great fall, the great fear, is the form of concept, is the fickle nature, is men, demons, and God, is Brahma the creator, Hari the sustainer, and Hara destroyer, is the crores of universes. Mind is all else that exists. Mind itself is the form of changing sensation. I love the way it's saying mind is everything. It's listing everything. But like at the beginning, before I start listing everything, it said mind itself is the greatest illusion. So I just wanted to remind us of that. It's the greatest illusion, and then it's everything, everything, everything. All of those everythings are the great illusion, and mind itself is the great illusion. Mind itself is the form of changing sensation. Mind itself appears as all, is to be considered as all, can be said to be all. Mind itself is the great illusion. Mind is like a marvelous display of magic. Mind itself is ever unreal, as the mind is ever similar to the son of a barren woman. Son, though mind itself, due to lack of inquiry, appears as the illusory world and such, if the mind form is firmly inquired into, it will be realized as the great consciousness. To overcome the mind easily and ever abide as the nature of the great consciousness, contemplate unwaveringly that mind and all are consciousness, and I am that, and be it. Until the conquest of the mind is complete, leave off all other activity, and meditate continuously and carefully that all that is wondrous is consciousness, and I am that. Then you will attain the great knowledge, which is the conquest of the mind, and through that all ignorance, such as the world, will melt away. Has anyone ever seen any darkness once the sun rises? The spotless knowledge, which is the supreme Brahman, will appear as the fickle mind due to ignorance. The inquiring intellect, which is the supreme Brahman, will, by knowledge, become the high, steadfast supreme. If the mind is with movement, it will appear as the great world, individuals, and the supreme. But if the mind itself is motionless, it will become the blemishless knowledge that is the supreme. Hence, contemplating constantly that the knowledge-filled mind is Brahman, which is the beginning and all, and that differenceless Brahman is myself, and conquering mind by means of such meditation, and overcoming all fickleness of the inconstant mind, and with that thought also destroyed, become the supreme of the nature of consciousness, and be at peace. And it really only ever means now, just now. I don't have to think about the future. I heard an Ananta saying in Satsang today. Somebody asked a question, and it was about something that seems to happen in their world. And then he said, well, that one is not here right now, so how can I help this one who is here? And I suppose what came out was just how to help the one who is here is really just to recognize who we truly are. I can't remember what words I used now, but to just rest in the truth of our being. And that one, that's like the best gift. That's what he said. That's the best gift that you can give to that future one that seems to appear. I indeed am the supreme Brahman, the mass of knowledge. I indeed am the supreme Brahman, the perfectly full bliss. I indeed am the supreme Brahman, devoid of anything. I indeed am the supreme Brahman, the motionless, without beginning or end, which is of the nature of the infinite. By means of such meditation, conquer the mind and become the changeless supreme and be at peace. I indeed am the supreme Brahman, which is of one nature. I indeed am the supreme Brahman, which is established as the nature of awareness, which is unsurpassed bliss, which has become all, which is the infinite space, which is higher than the highest. By such steadfast attitude, conquer the mind and become the spotless supreme and be at peace. I indeed am of the nature of the immaculate supreme Brahman. I indeed am of the nature of the eternal supreme Brahman. I indeed am of the nature of the supreme Brahman, which is all. I indeed am of the nature of the supreme Brahman, which is not all this. I indeed am of the nature of the supreme Brahman, which is actionless. I indeed am of the nature of the supreme Brahman alone. Conquering the mind by such steadfast conviction, abide as the nature of the undivided supreme and be at peace. There is no causal ignorance apart from me. There is no functioning ego apart from me. There is no intellect or thought apart from me. There is no mind or past impressions apart from me. There is no life or being or senses apart from me. There is no body or organs of sense apart from me. There is nothing apart from me. I am indeed the Supreme, ever being of this conviction, be at peace. There is no mode of life or caste apart from me. There is no dharma, righteous way, or sin apart from me. There is no good quality or mistake apart from me. There is no sorrow or happiness apart from me. There is no japa, repetition of mantra, or tapas, intense spiritual practice, austerity, apart from me. There is no mantra or tantra, ritual, mysticism, or scripture, apart from me. There is nothing apart from me. I am indeed the Supreme, ever being of this conviction, be at peace. There is no shrine or holy waters apart from me. There is no deity or worship apart from me. There is no devotion or fruit thereof apart from me. There is no heaven or hell apart from me. There is no time or space apart from me. There is not a thing to be seen apart from me. There is nothing apart from me. I am indeed the Supreme, ever being of this conviction, be at peace. There is no caste or right conduct apart from me. There is no race or lineage, no father or mother, no one who is mine or other than mine, no friend or foe, no praise or censor. There is nothing apart from me. I am indeed the Supreme, being ever of this Baba, be at peace. There is no desire or anger apart from me. There is no covetousness or infatuation, no hatred or arrogance, no honor or dishonor, no fear or friendliness apart from me. There is no bondage or severance from bondage apart from me. There is nothing apart from me. I am indeed the Supreme, being ever of this Bhava conviction, be at peace. There is nothing high or low apart from me. There is no activity apart from me. There is no enjoyment or enjoyer apart from me. There is no object of enjoyment, no cause or effect, no such thing as activity apart from me. There is nothing apart from me. I am indeed the Supreme, being ever of this conviction, be at peace. There is no body or birth apart from me, no childhood or youth, no senility or death, not the least modification apart from me. There is no interior or exterior, no nadir, center, or zenith apart from me. There is nothing apart from me. I am indeed the Supreme, being ever of this Bhava, be at peace. That means to know that there is nothing apart from you. Whatever it is, it's you. And mostly whatever it is not. If it's something that you can see. Oh, I just laugh at myself when I talk. It's funny. There are no elements or world apart from me. There is nothing arising out of the elements apart from me. There is no change or peace apart from me. No power or achievement. No bondage or transmigration. No supreme or liberation apart from me. There is nothing apart from me. I am indeed the Supreme, being ever of this conviction, be at peace. There are no religions like Shaivism or any other apart from me. There are no gods like Shiva and others apart from me. There is no Vedic revelation apart from me. There are no scriptures or treatises apart from me. There is no sacred lore or legendary stories apart from me. There are no epics apart from me. There is nothing apart from me. I am indeed the Supreme, being ever of this Bhava conviction, be at peace. Takes away all the differences that our mind makes. So if we take this into our heart, there's nothing apart from the Supreme. That means everything, everything, everything is the Supreme. So we can't differentiate between this or that. This is better or worse. Everything is the Supreme. I like that word, Supreme. Starting to appreciate it more and more. There is nothing to be rejected apart from me. There is nothing to be acquired apart from me. There is nothing real apart from me. There is nothing illusory apart from me. There is nothing to be perceived apart from me. There is no perceiver apart from me. There is nothing apart from me. I am indeed the Supreme, being ever of this Bhava conviction, be at peace. There is no triad of bodies apart from me, no triad of states, no pentad of sheets, no experiencer of these apart from me. There is nothing as integral, collective, or discrete, distinct and separate apart from me. There is no world or individuals or supreme apart from me. There is not an atom apart from me. I am indeed the Supreme, being ever of this Bhava, be at peace. There is no object so eminent such as this different from me, who am of the nature of Brahman. There is no object so eminent such as I different from me, who am of the nature of Brahman. There is never, ever anything so eminent different from me, of the nature of Brahman. I am of the nature of Brahman, being constantly of this Bhava, be at peace. Whatever is seen as a part is only Brahman. Hence, the Supreme Brahman is the only thing that exists. All the gurus and disciples, the world, and other differentiated things that appear separately though they appear to exist in this manner, are all only Brahman. And that Brahman is only myself. Conquering the mind by such a bhava conviction, abide as the great Brahman and be at peace. There is not an atom apart from the self. All always is only the self. There is no Brahman apart from the self. There is no self apart from that Brahman. The self, indeed, is the undivided supreme Brahman. The undivided supreme Brahman alone is the self. I, indeed, am the supreme Brahman, which is the self. Ever being of this conviction, be at peace. The self, indeed, is the substratum of all. The self, indeed, is the essence of all. The self, indeed, is the nature of all. The self, indeed, is of the nature of none. The self, indeed, is of the nature of the non-dual. The self, indeed, is the undivided supreme Brahman. I am, indeed, the supreme Brahman, which is the self. Being ever of this conviction, be at peace. The self, indeed, is eternal existence, is pure consciousness, is unparalleled bliss, is all that is complete and perfectly full. The self, indeed, is of the partless nature. The self, indeed, is the all-pervasive supreme Brahman. I, indeed, am the supreme Brahman, which is the self. Being ever of this conviction, be at peace. All is of the nature of the supreme Brahman, which is existence alone. Indeed, I am the supreme Brahman, which is existence alone. All is of the nature of the supreme Brahman, which is just consciousness. Indeed, I am the supreme Brahman, which is just consciousness. All is of the nature of the supreme Brahman, which is pure. Indeed, I am the supreme Brahman, which is pure. By such a bhava of oneself, conquer the mind, and becoming back to yourself, be at peace. All is the supreme Brahman, there is no doubt of this. I am that supreme Brahman, there is no doubt of this. Being ever of the bhava that I indeed am the supreme Brahman, which is all, and conquering the mind, and becoming oneself that supreme Brahman, the mass of bliss, and the peace of remaining in such repose, is the most commendable worship, charity, tapas, japa, and samadhi. Therefore, by inquiring daily into the supreme Brahman with a blemishless mind, with the helpful, steadfast bhava that the supreme Brahman, the mass of knowledge, is all and perfectly full, and I am that supreme Brahman, and conquering completely the fickle mind, becoming oneself the resplendent supreme Brahman, attain the peace of silence. Just as the waves appearing on the vast water are only water itself, the world and the individuals and the supreme appearing on me, of the nature of consciousness, are all only I, that consciousness. Likewise, I am ever Brahman. Being ever of this bhava and conquering the mind, become the pure supreme Brahman yourself, and attain the peace of absolute silence. There is not an atom that is not the embodiment of Brahman, which exists everywhere of the same nature, the all-pervasive and infinite existence. All is, indeed, the undivided supreme Brahman. That supreme Brahman, which is all, is indeed myself. Being of this conviction and conquering the mind, become the supreme, which is inexpressible by words, and attain the peace of absolute silence. The elements and their composite products, and all the world, all the learned works, such as epics, the Vedas, and Vedanta, the Upanishads, the inquiry into them, learning and reflecting on them and such. No such things ever exist. All is the Supreme Brahman, and that is only myself. Conquering the mind by this helpful conviction, be effortlessly at peace. Considering all that has been said as not mere words, but taking them sincerely to heart, and full with a concentrated mind in the conviction that all is ever the Supreme Brahman, which is just consciousness, and that I am, and conquering the mind by such conviction of the Supreme, be at peace, unwavering. All of what has been said is the truth. There is no doubt of this. In the name of the undivided Supreme Shiva, this is the truth. There is no doubt of this. What is done by the mind is what really is done. What is done by others does not constitute action. All that is seen day by day by the steadfast mind is indeed the seer, the infinite Supreme Brahman, and that is myself. If you have this conviction, attitude of mind about the infinite Supreme Brahman, you shall conquer the mind with such profound meditation and totally undisturbed be at peace. There is no differentiation such as mind, speech, and something else present for me. Is there anything seen in dreams that is apart from oneself who sees? The things seen in the waking state are likewise. Indeed, I am of the nature of knowledge. By such firm conviction, conquer the mind, and, abiding as the nature of the one absolute, be at peace. Those who have the conviction in themselves that all is Brahman, which is consciousness alone, and that I am ever that Supreme Brahman, shall conquer the mind, and, becoming themselves that undivided nature, remain at peace. Nidagha, I have told you this in the manner that the Lord of all the universe Shiva expounded it to me. Whoever listens and understands this will himself unfailingly become the Supreme Brahman. Only those who, studying the teachings of the words of the crest of the Vedas, tread the path of the subtle scriptures, and contemplate on the Supreme Shiva with love, and obtain his grace, will, realizing that the world and the beings and all are the misconceptions of a meandering mind, attain liberation. Thus, the great Rivu expounded to Nidagha the indivisible peace of the mind. It is the infinite form of our God of gods in a state of joyous dance that says, the world and all such, which exist as the illusion of the unsteady mind, are all only the changeless supreme consciousness, which is one, and that is ourselves. By such understanding, we can ever avoid the delusion of the mind and attain indivisible peace. Thank you for being here with me and listening. If you listen to all this, I don't know, I kind of doubt if anybody would listen to it. But I just listen to it, so maybe somebody else out there would listen to it. Steve would probably listen to it. Maybe an audience. Let's see. No, I'm really grateful for these words and grateful to be able to share them. And just grateful for the truth of these words more than anything. Namaste. Blessings. And